Oh, hey, everybody. No big deal. We're just halfway through season 2 of Psychopaths. And yeah, there were some comments. I read them. I couldn't read some because they were spoilery, but the ones I did read were awesome. And I just couldn't wait because, yeah, after last episode, I have so many questions. And one thing that I'm really enjoying about this season is they are not letting up. They're giving you crumbs, but then they're like, no, we're going to just put this image here, let you kind of like soak with it for a while, and maybe we'll explain it. And I'm like, ah, I feel like it's one of those scenarios where the moment we find out answers, it's going to be like oh man, are you kidding? It was there all along. Like one of those scenarios, but I'm fine with that. As long as the show plays its cards close to the vest and doesn't just give it away to you. And then even if it's something simple, when it comes out and it's a surprise, you're like, okay, I should have guessed that, but dang it. That's kind of one of the things I love about this series. I love just being kind of like, I don't know what's going to happen. And then it just all springs out of nowhere. It's great. So when we last left off, Mika got some balls and confronted Kasai, which I was like, Ginoza would never have done. Akane is deep into this case with Kamui, Kumai. I think I've gotten his name wrong the entire time, and it'll be fine. I'll pay attention this episode and see if it comes out. You think? I think because Crunchyroll or whoever the streaming service or whatever the file was that I watched like mixed the name up. Now my brain is confused, so I'm sure I'll see it here in a second. It'll be fine. But yeah, so there's that mystery around him. Togani is freaking suspicious and something weird's going on, and maybe it's a red herring, and maybe he's totally innocent and he's trying to help Akane and flirt with her. I don't know. There is conflicting ship symbolism throughout. And then we have the whole thing about ships in the night. I'm like, maybe is Togani and Kamui gonna be a ship like Shogo and Kogami were? I don't know. All I do know is that Sugo had a very, very bad day yesterday in last week's episode. He shot his boss, got chided by her could-be lover, and then had to go back to where his old co-workers worked at and watch all of them die. So it's been a very bad day for Sugo, or however you spell his name. And then Ginoza's just like, what do we do? So there's a lot of interesting things going on, and I do like that we get more Division 3 and kind of how their dynamic is different than the first two divisions. And now Division 2 and Division 1 have merged. It's like the Office where the branches are merging together. It's a lot. And I'm really liking this season so far. It's very different from season 1, but the mystery of it, and I feel like it's all going to come to a head at the end, and then everything will be revealed. This season reminds me more of a stereotypical Sherlock novel, if I'm being honest. Shogo Mikishima would scoff at this season and be like a Sherlock novel, how pedestrian. And he'd pick up some like Russian novelist or something that I'd have no clue about and say that it should be more like that. But I like a good Sherlock story, and this season seems very much like a Sherlockian mystery where you're given hints of things and you're like, this should be something easy to figure out, but I'm missing a piece, right? I'm missing pieces of the puzzle, correct? And then with Kasai, we have no clue which brain is currently in Kasai, who Kasai's been talking to about all of this. There's just still a lot kept close to the vest, which I like because we're only like into the halfway point, right? We still have a long way to go. So that's exciting. But before we get any further and start this episode, I do want to give a very quick shout out over to our philanthropy tier over on Patreon, to thank you all for your support because I greatly appreciate it. So a shout out to Alex Cornejo, to Anime Annie, to Be Happy, to Dana, to Destiny Marie, to Danger Zone, to Eric, to Kiri, to Loisiji, aka Frogman, to Lyndon, as well as Matthew Palfinier, to Nameless Monster, to Trails, to Translucent Men, to Shimoyama, to Sunspots, who is the moderator for the channel of Psychopaths over on Discord, as well as Murphew, Nicholas, and our newest philanthropy team member, Schlapalot. I love that username. It's so cool. Schlapalot. Anything with the schlah sound to it is fun to say. So thank you all so much. I greatly appreciate it. All of my love. So yeah, I'm super excited, y'all. This is the halfway point of the season. Like we're well over into the halfway point because there's only 11 episodes. And we're going to be watching episodes 10 and 11 together at the end of this season. So we really only have this one, 7, 8, 9, down to the final 5 episodes. Whew. Okay. I'm ready to go, so I hope you all are too, but we're not going to waste any more time. We are going to dive right into episode 6 of Psycho-Pass season 2, and we're going to do that here in 3, 2, 1, and let's do this. Man, it's like we put out one fire and then 3 more get lit. But oh my god! I really had a lot of fun with this episode. This episode was great. This episode was insane. And Division 3's dead. Like they did. They straight up did. Like the leader, the inspectors, and it wasn't even like from Kamui necessarily or Shisui. It was literally from the drones just killing them, and that's so insane. So I'm glad Sugo made it out of there seemingly. Good for Sugo, because Sugo was a literal MVP. I love that Sugo was like, okay, I know this place, I know this. And there's a big difference here. I want to make a note of that, because Sugo, when he was hesitating to talk to Akane, I was like, why is he hesitating? She's an inspector, he's an enforcer, he should be doing this. But the thing is, he was an enforcer for Division 2, and they moved just now to Division 1, so it was just kind of him being like, coming to terms with him talking about his place of work, which is like digging up your past and having to go back to it of who you once were before, which is supposedly what Kamui is trying to like enlighten everyone with, which is like the fudge. But him like having to come to terms with that, him having to like say, yeah, Connie, I'm going to trust you on this, knowing that it's a gamble and being like, I'm putting everybody's lives at risk by telling you this. And then like saying, you know, it may not work and I may get in trouble later for this. And it's like, no, you did the right thing. Like Sugo did the right thing. I'm glad Ganoza helps him throughout this episode. Like it's, you know, bros before hoes. Bros before hoes. Speaking of bros, Kaede is dead. Oh my god. At first I was like, when he got shot in the leg and he didn't instantly like blow up, I'm like, why didn't he just like blow up like the others? But then there was another person that only the top half of their body blew up, so maybe it's just like the shot and the angle and if you hit it directly or not, I don't know. Or the show just wants to do it for dramatic graphic effect. I don't know. But damn. So we got to talk about this episode and go through it, because there was a lot put on the table. Whiteboard Kun has been sitting here waiting, and I'm like, oh my god, my deodorant has failed. It's definitely a good sign of an episode has a good sign when you're like, deodorant fails. But oh my god. Okay. So we need to talk about this. Talk about this episode and what we get from it. The concept of the video game projecting them and the people around just playing the game, and that's the hollow stuff. So that shows us a lot of things. First of all, let's put Kamui up here, right? We're gonna put Kamui here and show that he is clearly tech savvy, right? I mean, here's the thing. Shogo Mikishima was not tech savvy. Dude could run a book club like nobody's business. And Shogo had great ideas for his villainy, but Shogo very much was not the type of person that wanted to pull the trigger. I think that's worth noting is that, and I'm going to put like just a comparison over here, that you have Shogo, who very much like hired out his services. He was like, look, I've got these ideas, but I don't necessarily have a means of getting them accomplished. So I don't have a particular set of skills as far as that goes. So I'm going to hire out people that do, and they're going to kind of work for me until I need to move on to the next thing. And Shogo never seemed to stay in one place for a particular amount of time. He was always going on to a next. And that's what kind of made Shogo hard to detect, was that his crimes, there was clearly a thread connecting all the crimes together, but it, one, wasn't insanely obvious unless you really dug deep like Kogami did, but two, none of the crimes were really like the same type of thing, so it was easier for him to hide. And since he was using all these different people from different sources, it was hard to connect those sources together because they were all very distinct and separate. Kamui is like, I'm just going to do it all myself and not rely on anybody else except Shisui, which we'll talk about in a second. And then I don't have to worry about it. There's not really a trail to hide when it's yourself. That was the thing. Shogo kind of had to tie up all the loose ends and get people out of the way if they were, starting to not show promise anymore. For Kamui, he's like, I'm just going to do it all myself. And then I don't have to worry about it. Then I don't have to worry. We're all good there. So that's terrifying. That's terrifying because that means you can't really find, there's not any accomplices. Other than Shisui, it's just Kamui. So there's not really any other way of doing it. I am curious how he has that tech savvy hacking skills. Like, was he IT somewhere? Did he work for the pharmaceutical company? What's his backstory? He's such a mysterious villain. And he's intentionally mysterious. We're not supposed to know anything about him. And what makes it even creepier is that he is totally fine. He is totally fine, I know, with body modification. I mean, if the Buffalo Bill style body parts in cold storage was not a sign enough that was the case, I think him replacing his own eyeball with Shisui's is enough too. I think that is. The big question though is, I guess, if we're going to talk about plot holes, if we're going to talk about possible things, like he can't be a surgeon, right? Or a doctor, we don't think. So how did he get the eye replaced? Did he hire someone to do that? I mean, it's not outside the realm of possibility that he hired somebody to replace his eyeball, but I'm like, surely he can't operate on himself. So how did he have that happen, right? But he was able to take out her eyeball, but you can't operate on yourself. So how did that work? I don't know. We're going to maybe find out by the end of this. If they tell me that he replaced his own eyeball and just like injected himself in the eye, that's just not possible. So I don't know. There has to be some explanation as to how he got the eyeball replaced, but if there's not, then I'm going to chalk that up. No, Huckleberry. I'm going to chalk that up to a plot hole because like you can't do surgery on yourself. So I'm going to chalk that up as a plot hole unless we get it explained later, but maybe they'll find some kind of trace of someone. But here's the thing. You could say, because he looks so plain, you could say maybe he does have a plastic surgeon that does these types of surgeries for him. I don't know. Maybe he does have like a black market like person doing that. Or maybe because people are getting body modifications in this world frequently, he just went to somebody and he's like, I want this eyeball, put it in me. And they're like, okay. And maybe they can trace that somehow. I don't know. That's my question is like, can we trace the eye? Can we trace the eye of Shisui back? I don't know. To me, that's a plot hole if you can't explain how he got the eye in him. Is it enough to make me hate the series? No, but it is a kind of a plot hole that I'm like, you should probably explain that. Because at least with Mikishima, everything was pretty much explained. So yeah, so these drones going around and Akane like trying to dodge them all. I mean, like our girl showing her experience. And then the decomposition shot. I do love that shot of Togani though, when he's like looking down to decompose the drones. That part is a really good look. The other parts we find out about him are a bit creepy, and we're going to get into that. Everybody wants Akane, and what do we do about that, right? It's like Billy Squire's song, Everybody Wants You, starts playing. Also, Togani with his white shoes. I don't know. His white shoes that are kind of like reminding me of Mikishima. I don't know. I just don't know. I just don't know. I'm like, okay, so here's my crackpot theory. I have a crackpot theory. It's probably desperately wrong, but my crackpot theory is that Togani was alive at one time. And these are just crackpot theories. These are probably not true. But I'm like, could it be that Togani was alive at one time? He was taken out by Kasai and them because he was the strongest, had the strongest crime coefficient. But he's in on the bet. He's in on the situation because we see him in the OP with Kasai, right? So he's in on the situation with Kasai and he's trying to test out Akane's psychopath hue and how it changes and develops, right? So could it be that I'm like, does he have... I don't think he has Shogo's brain in him. I don't think that's possible. I don't know. But could he be like kind of a cyborg like some of the others or like Kasai? I don't know. I'm like, I don't understand. I really don't. And Huckleberry has the toy like right outside my reach. He needs to bring it over to me. Otherwise, I'm not going to throw it. Bring it here. He's not going to do that. But yeah, the white shoes, they look very much like a Shogo shoe. I don't know. I feel like it's a red herring, but what a weird shoe choice. Only evil people wear solid white shoes. That's my theory. Anyway, I don't know. I don't know if Togene's alive. I don't know if he's a cyborg. I don't know if he's like if he's got Shogo's brain inside of him. I don't think he's Kogami. I don't think he. Here's the thing. I don't think he's really Kogami. I think that he knows that Akane likes Kogami, and he's trying, because he was a therapist, so he's trying to psychologically manipulate her by making her remember Kogami in the actions he takes and the things that he does, so that she's going to develop an attachment to him and isn't going to be able to hurt him. And we're going to talk about that. So we're going to put Togene over here. And I'm going to put the white shoes. Look, I don't believe Togene's actually a cyborg. I don't believe he's actually dead with a brain from Sybil's system inside of him. But those are some outlandish theories, and I'm like, why would he care about her psychopath hue? Why does he want to paint her black? What Rolling Stones song is it now? I don't know. I'm just like, him just firing the Dominator and destroying the thing. He's definitely apt to keeping her alive, which, good. I'm glad he's not trying to kill her yet. Glad that we're having that. But I don't know, y'all. I'm just like, I don't even know. Oh, buddy. Nope. So yeah, so the drones are being operated remotely by the people around the city, right? And I'm sure that it's like a localized thing. But yeah, I love Ganoza working with Sugo. That's really good. Like, buddy, I don't know. Nope. So I like Sugo and Ganoza working together, because that shows that, one, Ganoza is not going to hold a grudge. He's not going to be like, look, I hate you because you killed my possible, like, lady friend. He's like, bygones be bygones. Let's be enforcers. Let's get the job done. Like, Ganoza's better than that, right? So I appreciate that. I appreciate Ganoza working with him. And then, damn, poor Kaide. He ran off by himself, which is what you're not supposed to do. And they were like, no, because they're trying to pick people off one by one. There's strength in numbers, and they're picking people off one by one, especially the enforcers. They're easy to take the dominators from because their crime coefficient is so high. Ugh, it's frustrating. So yeah, I like that Shion says, look, the National Defense's drones and the Public Safety Bureau's drones were hijacked. That's a big deal. So we have the idea of hijacking. We have the idea of hijacking the drones. My thing is, I feel like Kasai would be pretty freaked out about this. I feel like Kasai, because she made that that observation, she was like, well, nobody can stop us. Nobody can stop, and control and get past the Sybil system. And I'm like, well, this guy is. He's getting past it. So what are y'all going to do? So I'm curious next episode if we're going to get Kasai's reaction and how she's going to handle this moving forward. Because I feel like it would get her to, like, go after Kamui even more. But, I mean, we're past the halfway point at this, and it's just getting crazier. So I don't know. And she's like, what are we supposed to do about this? And yeah, they don't know what they're doing. It converts video into a virtual hollow representation, which is a pretty advanced technology, right? So that their hues, what do they say here? It converts it so that the operator's psychopath isn't affected. That part is crazy to me. And I thought that was really interesting commentary because, first of all, like, growing up in the 90s, there were all of these people on television that were like, oh, you can't let your kids play video games. It's going to, like, affect them and make them more violent and all of this. And as far as Psychopass is concerned and its system is concerned, that is not the case. They're like, oh, no, yeah, it doesn't affect your hue at all. So I'm like, that seems weird because you would think that it would. And something that's interesting too is back in season 1, they started to ban certain artwork and, like, arts because the arts was passionately and emotionally invoking reactions from people. So I'm like, looking at a painting a certain way is not allowed, but playing a violent video game is. That's so fascinating and interesting to me, right? Because usually, like, our current society kind of views it the opposite. They're like, oh, no, artwork's fine, but no video games. So that's interesting. And so then Togene gets back up there with Akane, and it's like, if you kill without intent, what color are you? So that's the question. Like, if you're killing things without the intent, what does that do? So we have this question. What about killing with or without intent. Right? You're not like targeting anything. It's just a video game. So you have to think about that. Yes. No, go lay down. My dog is like wanting me to play with him. And it's not working. So then we see, we see that Kamui has Shisui's eye, which is just mind-boggling to me. I don't know how he ended up with it. So, okay, this OP, I wanted to look at it a little more carefully, right? So we have these two hands reaching out, trying to touch one another. Akane is the center point of this, but we have Togani, who's trying to, like, he keeps aiming the Dominator at her, and it's not working because her crime coefficient isn't going up, right? Then we have this, like, Rose Arch test. We have her head keep bobbing, but then her head gets, like, blown, and it's like, well, that's creepy. I don't like that at all. Then we see, like, someone in this nice room that looks like it could be Kamui, right? There's all these different colors surrounding them, like all the different colors, reds, yellows, greens, blues. What color, right? And he's black and white. Interesting. So yeah, I wanted to go, there was like a little part of this that I wanted to see. It looks like maybe it's Kamui tied up. And I don't know if that's going to refer to something that happens later. I don't know. Mika looks like maybe she's affected by something. What is this wording here, though? I want to check it. Like, what is the wording with all of them standing there? Okay. This wording, it says, me color. What does it say there? Okay. Mi color est secutu. Basically, what color are you, isn't it? Ah, how dare you? How dare you, show? I'm curious. It's going to be fun to go back to this. And I just noticed each of the openings, they're different colors are the wording. So I'm like, that's great. That's fun. Huckleberry, I don't have the toy. It's way down here. Hold on. Go lay down, you weirdo. So yeah, the game is on multiple sites and it's hard to just shut down one, right? Okay. And Shion's like, yeah, to mask the server, it's going to take some time to figure it out. And so then we find out this little trick about the Dominators. They only fire 3 decomposer shots. Well, isn't that convenient? So that explains why it doesn't happen more in the show, because you only have 3 times to make it work. So, I mean, that's a nice limitation that it gives the show. It kind of reminds me of Attack on Titan when their ODM gear only has so much gas, so it's not limitless. That makes sense. I like that. So we have that, and they're like, what do we need to do? They need to get out of there, clearly. So then we come back to Saiga, and they're like, you're trying to lure them into this cat and mouse game. And basically, the whole idea behind this entire incident was to basically just get the inspectors and enforcers alone and then start stealing Dominators. Now, why they need all these Dominators? I guess to manipulate them, but I don't know. I'm like, Shisui only has 2 eyes, so is he going to just, like, try to dismantle? I mean, if you're a hacker and you're messing with tech, having all these Dominators means he could tear them apart, figure out how they work, manipulate them. If he's a master hacker that could hack into a system and reprogram military drones and public safety drones easily, then if he hacks into the Dominators and gets them to where they can work regardless of your hue, then that's a problem. If he can get the Dominators to work without the hue, without the number affecting it, then it's like game over. Because right now, the one thing that's helping them against Kamui is that the Dominators he has doesn't work against Akane. But if he finds a way to hack them and make them work regardless of your psychopath number or hue, then it's game over, because then he can just kill anybody. Because if he can activate it with Shisui's eye, he can kill anyone. Now, do I think that Shisui might still be playing the game and maybe that he's told her his plan and she's like, oh my God, yeah, sure, baby, I'll help you with that, honey, until he, like, makes it to where the Dominator can kill someone and then she's going to betray him? Possibly. I hope that's the case, but we'll talk about that here in a hot second. So she's like, what do we do? What's the objective? And then that's when she realizes it's to isolate everyone so that they can steal the Dominators. But poor Kaide, I was just getting to like this bro. Like, as soon as I like characters, it sucks. And his crime coefficient, and that's when Shisui fires at him and and kills him. She also gets this, like, Metro, like, Catwoman, Metroid Samus, like, leather suit that seems like it was specially picked out by Kamui. He's creepy as F, right? He's just really kind of disturbing. And part of me is like, did she go along with this to, like, is she really brainwashed into, like, helping him? Or is she still playing the game and is like, no. Is she playing the game up until the point where she can kill him? I don't know. Let me grab this. Huckleberry is being especially playful. Ugh. Wah. Anyway, I don't know. She's got her pirate eye because then she fires at him. Now, granted, Kaede was an enforcer from her division. I don't know if she cares that much about him. We talked early on in the season that Division 2 did not seem chummy like Division 1, so there's a very strong possibility that she didn't care about him that much. Still sucks that she killed him. And then, of course, as he's looking for the Dominator, that's when, you know, she says hunting dogs have no place in the world that Kamui is creating. And if you look, like, her face and his face, like, go together to make one face, and now we have the eye patch where her eye is missing, and he has her eye. At first, I thought he was kind of like David Bowie, where he had two different colored eyes, but no, he took her eye, right? But that line there just makes me think that she said that for his benefit to, like, try to woo him over even more. He is so weird and he's creepy and he wants a lady. He wants to Bonnie and Clyde this whole thing and have a lady by his side to do his bidding. He basically wants to be like Jabba the Hutt with slave Princess Leia on his lap, and it's creepy as hell, right? Because I don't know. Because he's like, well, how do you feel? And she's like, oh, very clear. And then he's like, well, you've been set free. And he gives her this big hug. And she's like, well, it's all thanks to you. And he's like, oh, I don't deserve such kind words. Like he's freaking Mr. Rogers. And then he's like, oh, I did a terrible thing to you. And he, like, grabs her, like touches her where her eye is left. I'm like, if it had been me, I'd be playing the shit out of this game. Because this guy, his weakness seems to be that he wants a lady by his side and someone to love him. And I'm like, oh. And you know what? Shogo wanted somebody to love him too, but he was like a freaking yandere. He wanted them to kill each other. That was like their foreplay was like, let's slice each other's throats. Like they were like having some crazy foreplay, kinky shit. This guy just seems like he's kind of that loser that wants like just somebody, and I don't want to say it that way. I don't want to say that it's being a loser to like want somebody to love you. There's nothing wrong with that, but you can't make people love you. You just can't. It doesn't work that way. And he very much seems like the serial killer stalkers that are in like the true crimes where they just wanted some woman to love them. And so they like Stockholm syndromed her and tortured her until she like was like, okay, sure. And then she like escaped from the place at the very end of it. That's the vibe that I get from him. He's like, oh, I did such a horrible thing to you and I'm making you stick around with me, but do you really want to? I hope she's playing him. If she's not playing him and she legit wants to Bonnie and Clyde with him, I'm like, girl, what the fudge? He brainwashed you? But I feel like she's playing along right now because she wants to figure out and see if he can make the Dominators to where anybody can use them. And hell, she may end up killing him. It may not be Akane. It may be Shisui that does it. I don't know. I hope it's the case. What I see happening is that she's playing the system and she's trying to like get him. She's like, oh, it's okay. She's like, and she grabs his hand. She's like, I never liked my eyes anyway. And she does the anime thing, which I've talked about this in several series, where she says something, but she covers her mouth, which means sometimes that it's not true. And she's like, oh, I never liked my eyes anyway. And she like covers her mouth as she says it and puts her hand over his. I think that she is trying to trick him and follow him along until she can find an advantageous moment to attack. My theory, though, is that she's going to try to do that, and he's going to be like, women are all the same, and, like, kills her or something. I don't know. That's just my theory. We'll see if that holds water. We'll see if that boat... I mean, they literally got on a ship together and set sail. Their literal ship set sail, so maybe they are a twisted relationship. I just can't imagine that this girl who is a inspector went to being this, like, mastermind's girlfriend, and that's what she's always wanted. I don't know. I'm hoping that she's trying to trick him, but I don't think it's going to work either way. We'll see. But then, yeah, she looks at him almost like she's analyzing him. Okay. and then gives him the Dominator. Yep, he's like, the eye is essential to me. So he has basically the same stuff that allows him to use it, and says that it's him. He's like, it's perfect. I don't know. I'm hoping that she's not been brainwashed by this loser, but we'll see. We'll see. And then he's like, I'm glad my eye became yours. Ugh. I don't know. And then I like that Shion's like, well, it makes no sense that it makes no sense that there could be two Shishuis at once, but here we are. I mean, like, at this point, the fact that we have two Shishuis running around with the Dominators, I don't think that they can deny at this point that Kamui and stuff is going on, right? I think that's pretty much a done deal. Meanwhile, Mika is researching on on Togani's little laptop everything that's going on and seeing what's happening. He's been recording the progression of her psychopaths. He's been at it since he started here. Every single day. But the thing about it, and I agree, how creepy, right? But my thing is, if you look at it, her psychopath has stayed relatively in the 20s and 30s, like, all the time. Like, it's not really changed that much, okay? So she's 22, it looks like. She's 22 years old, Akane is. So let's go back to Togani. Togani is monitoring Akane's psychopaths daily, which is super creepy. Now, my question is, how is he keeping a log of it? Is he keeping a log of it in his Dominator and it just like downloads into that file? Or is he hooked up into the system and he's actually like one of the brains? I don't know. We don't know. She's like, how creepy. And that's when she falls over. Now the problem is, okay, when she falls over, I wanted to check that ashtray. I don't know. There looks like a cigarette out of it, but they do a job where they zoom in on the ashtray and show the cigarette having fallen off of the ashtray. I'm like, I feel like Togani's going to get back, see the cigarette hanging out of the ashtray, and know that somebody's been in his room messing with things. And that's going to be a sign. I don't know. I'm getting that vibe. I love that Shion's like, what the hell are you doing? Where'd you go? Like, what are you messing with? And Mika's like, I don't know. Like, I worry a little bit for Mika. Because I feel like she is barely not expendable. Like, she's teetering that line. And I feel like she's doing all this research and she's sticking her nose where it doesn't belong. I'm like, I'm not getting good vibes. So, yeah. And then Shion is like, Shion and Kunozuka. I like Shion and Kunozuka working together and her being like, look, it doesn't make sense, but this is what's happening. I love them working together in this. It's great. But then, yeah. What does she say there? She says that it means someone else is using the Dominators in her place. And Kunozuka's like, that doesn't make sense, but there's no other way to explain it. And then they're like, when Mika's ready, we'll go back them up. And that's when Akane is like, no, do not come over here. We're going to get out of here, but don't send any more people. That's what they want. And then, yeah, damn it, everybody just dies. Like Kamui shoots or the drones shoot everybody. And the poor guy with yellow glasses, he dies. The one guy that's the leader of the division, he dies. Even the one guy, like Shinso at the end, he dies too. Like Division 3 just wiped off the mat. And that's when Genzo and Sugo come. And they're trying to figure out what do they need to do. And that's where, like, what are we going after them? Can we dislodge the hologram? What do we do? And Akane is like, look, I'm the only one that can go after Kamui. I'm the only one that the Dominator doesn't work on. For now, right? The fact that Kamui can mess with the Dominators terrifies me, because if he succeeds in doing it, then Genoza could die. Anybody could die. I'm like, I don't think that Akane will, because she's our main character, but I don't want anybody else to die as well. I'm like, why? Why? Damn it. What do we do? And that's when Mika's like, she's delusional, calling off enforcers and moving herself to the front lines. She thinks she's so great because her psychopath is clear. And then Mika says, I hope it gets clouded. And that's such like a bitch thing to say. And I'm glad she stops herself and saying, what am I saying? I'm glad Mika stops and just realizes that what she just said, like she basically wished her superior would become an enforcer. Like, girl. And the thing about it is, this is still the same girl at that art school that was sending people unwittingly to their deaths with the other woman. Like, Mika has a lot of flaws. And I feel like Mika is jealous because Akane's psychopath isn't clouding despite everything happening to her. And I feel like Mika is constantly on edge, worrying that hers is going to cloud and she's going to become an enforcer like Ganoza and the others. Because it seems to be what happens to most of them. So it's just crazy. But I'm glad that Mika realized that what she said was uncalled for. I'm like, girl, she gets some comeuppance this episode thanks to Saiga, and I was like, thank God, like, put Mika in her place, because she's getting a little high in her britches a little bit, right? And then Kunozuka's like, I like that Kunozuka is like, why are you being reckless, Akane? Why are you putting yourself in danger? I like that Kunozuka's looking out for our girl, and Shion's like, well, this is what she wants to do, so all we can do is try to dismantle the system. And I love that Saiga gets little Hinakawa to come in. Saiga's like, I picked this stray cat up off the streets. And I'm like, oh! Hinakawa definitely gives me the vibes of a stray cat. It's super, super cute. But anyway, so yeah, Saiga and Shion, I love them working together. They're great. And I love that Hinakawa was giving me the vibes of, the old original Jurassic Park from 1993. I love that Hinakawa's like, I'm a hacker. I can do this. And I was like, yes. It reminded me of the granddaughter in the first Jurassic Park where she's like trying to hack the system to save them from the velociraptors. It was giving me that vibes. It was really cool. And then Saiga's there for 2 seconds and he was like, hey, did you check this one thing? And then Shion's like, oh shit, yeah, bingo, that's it. And Saiga's like, it's what I do. I want Saiga and Shion to stay on the Public Safety Bureau and work together. I love their dynamic. I think they're perfect together. And then Kunozuka and Hinakawa. Hinakawa's grown on me a lot. I like him. He is no Kagari. Nothing's going to replace our boy Kagari. But Hinakawa is really super cute. And he's fun. And I love his shyness. It's really sweet. And he likes Akane. Like, not like romantically. No, Togani. We're going to talk about him. But Hinakawa kind of has like Kunozuka does, where they both have this affinity towards Akane that's so platonic, but it's like such a deep bond already. And I'm like, yes, Hinakawa, you do love Akane. You are going to help our girl. I love that. That's so freaking sweet. It's great. So they're working together to debug everything. I like the game makes Akane the witch. I love that. I love that Akane is the witch. I'm like, oh, that's just, because she's working with the Sybil system, and she has this magical ability to, like, not have her psychopaths clouded. So what can we do about that? It's fascinating. So they get her to do this gamble, which is lead her and the drones back to back. And I love Sugo comes out to protect her. I'm like, hell yes, Sugo, be an MVP, right? And so Sugo says that the drones have a fail-safe measure where they can't shoot at one another. And I was like, that's so genius. Get them all together where they're all aiming their guns at one another. They can't fire. Then get rid of them all together. Done. Makes perfect sense, right? And I love that they work together to solve the problem with this. Like, because I was like, how are they getting off the island? How are they getting off of this? How are they stopping the drones? Because even if they escape the freight carrier, then the drones are going to come after them and be a hazard to the public. So the way they solved it in this episode, I was like, no, that works great. I love that. And then, of course, Togani shows up along with Ganoza. Togani in his white shoes. And then there's a safety mechanism on there. I think that it's really good writing that we have someone like Sugo there that's able to help them out throughout this. It's good narrative storytelling. Make his character count, right? So then they decide that we'll get them all together and incapacitate the drones. And I do like the Togani's like, well, what happens if we fail? And Sugo's like, then I die. I'm an enforcer. What does it matter? Sugo's so brave. His character, Hinakawa's character, I came to respect them so much more after this episode. And I think Akane's like, all right, Sugo, you're pulling your weight around here. I appreciate it. Everybody with the eyes and curls pulling their weight, right? And then Ganoza's like, okay, I like Ganoza just sitting there with the gun, like pointed at the drones, looking like a badass. I love it. It's great. Meanwhile, this poor guy Shinso, he ends up like just throwing the F-bomb, and Kamui's like, we don't curse in this house. and just eliminates him. That sucks. Shinjo. Sucks to be him. And he's like, come on, Sugo, tell me how to do this, or we're all dead. Meanwhile, as they take off to the warehouse to corner the drones, okay? As they take off, Togani comes out from behind the corner like a freaking vaudeville villain and then points the Dominator at Tsunemori, and it's under 30. The crime coefficient's 26.1. And that's when he gets like the most Aizen-like look imaginable. I'm like, oh, you don't look suspicious at all, sir. Just looking like Ginjo and Aizen had a love child. You don't look suspicious whatsoever. I don't know what to do with Togani. Kamui makes sense. Kamui having this weird obsession with Akane makes sense because he wants to make the world clear. And we'll talk about that at the end of this episode with what he says to her at the dock. That all makes sense. I get Kamui having an obsession with her because he wants to make the world clear and she naturally is clear. So him having an obsession with her makes sense. Togani? It is like, I mean, his family is creating the pharmaceuticals that are supposedly doing the same thing that Kamui once done. So like, are they just two rival pharmaceutical companies going head to head? I don't know, but it's weird as hell. And then he has a suspicious ass look on his face. And he's like, even under these circumstances, she's as clear as the sky. Like, he has this freaky obsession with her too. The fudge. And yeah, of course, the sky being blue behind him, right? Oh. And that's why I want to color her black. Oh. That is some creepy messed up shit. What? Why? Why color her black? I'm like, but, and my thing too is if he, at this point, if he is certain that her hue isn't changing, then my thing is coloring her black. Okay, so I'm gonna write this on here because black is what he wants Akane's color to be, right? Let's go back to this whole thing about what color. It's never been about what number, it's about what color, right? And the color may not necessarily be attributed to the number. So we talked about earlier in this episode where the people without killing intent, their psychopath number doesn't rise, but maybe their color changes. And that has something to do with it. So we know that Shogo said his color was pure white. So other than the sexual innuendo that would make this entire relationship even creepier, why does he say he wants to color her black? What difference would that make? What is the difference between her color being black and Shogo's being white? Is there a correlation there? Is there a difference? Is he trying to get her to where she's capable of killing someone and her psychopath doesn't rise, and that's kind of the point? But if she's asymptomatic, it's not going to rise anyway. So I don't know. I don't know. I'm like, I don't know what to make of that. That's the interesting part. Is it's like, I don't know what we're going to do with this, but okay. I don't know. That it's so curious, right? So very curious. But they go back on. I like these chickens have like little hearts on their back. And then there's the witch. Creepy. But they managed to make it into the warehouse to lure them in. And it works. Meanwhile, Mika's like, hey, everybody, what's going on? And everybody's like doing a job. Everybody's either hacking or Saiga. Saiga's just there enjoying the ride, but he gave him the insight. So he's like, I've done my job. And she's just like, what's going on? What did I miss? And then they're all hacking into the system. I like that Togani hacks into the system to get the crane and stuff, the hook and everything going. Girl, Akane jumped onto those boxes from like 20 feet. Like, or more. Like, girl is fearless. She don't even give a shit. She's like, she's definitely a lot more like Kogami than she wants to let on, right? Girl has taken after him. And just luring all of them up there. Kogami would have flipped out. If Kogami knew she was up on top of those boxes, he would have flipped the F out and been like, nope, I'm doing this, you're not doing this. But that's not the case anymore. And then she lures them all up here. And she realizes she only has 3 shots, but Togani has the hook. The thing about it is, if Togani wanted to kill her, he has so many opportunities to have that done. Like, he could have just let the drones kill her now, and that's it. But he's wanting her and her color to change black for some reason, and we don't know why. He's still such an enigma. He's suspicious and creepy as hell, but I don't know what to do with him yet, and I feel like we're not going to find out till, like, the climax of the season. If him and Kamui are working together, if they're not working together, I don't know. I don't know. But he has the highest crime coefficient, so I'm so curious. Supposedly, so I'm so curious. I'm glad that Ginoza does not get shot by the stray bullets. Glad he looks sexy up there in the flames, looking good. Poor Sugo gets shot, so that sucks. But they managed to, like, take out the 5 Dominators. And then they take out all the drones. Not the Dominators. They take out the drones, and then they're going to try to dismantle the hollow so everybody can see what's going on. And I like that Akane just grabs the gun. She's like, I'm going to go threaten Kamui with this. Girl has learned from girl has learned. She's evolved. She's gone from not wanting to take the gun at all to taking the gun but not wanting to use it to, like, having the gun and being like, I might use it. I mean, she's advancing as far as that goes. I don't know if Togani, we have Kogami and Togani. How about that? If Togani is wanting her to use it or not. So many curious things, right? And then Ginoza is like, are you trying to cloud your psychopaths? And she's like, call it a good luck charm. She's like, the guy I used to love was using something similar. We're fine. And Ginoza is like, are you freaking kidding me? And then Togani just walks past me like, I hate to interrupt this sentimental moment, but what's up with these Public Safety Bureau drones? And then we find out that they're all being tampered with, which is, again, crazy tech stuff. How? How is that even possible? Again, so much mystery. So much mystery. Except the drones, they can't really shoot you, but they can still tase you and hurt you, which is a problem. I like the shot of Mika in between Shion and Hinakawa trying to figure out what to do and seeing everything go awry. And then Hinakawa is like, okay, it's done. I'm sending it your way. We're going to use it on the game program and terminate the hollow. And then Mika's like, well, but wait, won't that show everybody what's happening in real life? And Saiga's like, yes, that's the point. If we don't show them what's happening, they're going to keep killing people, and we can't have that happen. She's like, do you know how many people's psychopaths will get clouded? And I love that nobody answers her. Nobody respects Mika at this point. Nobody respects her and her questions. And Hinakawa kind of looks over to Saiga. I like that Hinakawa looks to Saiga being like, old man, you gonna say something? You gonna tell her how it is? And then our man Saiga, he's like, well, dealing with it's your job. That's why you're here, right? So, you'll handle it. I love it. And he's just like, what do you think is going to happen if we sit back and let them take control of every drone? I love he calls her out on being like, are you going to sit on your ass just like you did in the last episode? No? Okay, cool. Then go do your job. It's like part of the job is that your psychopaths may rise because of what you experience, but that's part of it. And she's like, well, this isn't how the Bureau operates. And Saiga's just like, well, you can't solve every problem following the manual. I'm like, yeah, Saiga fits perfectly into the enforcer category because he's like, what? They're just guides. And the thing about it is, Mika is too by the book. We talked about that last episode. And I feel like Mika is she's gonna go cry wolf up to Kasai, and Kasai's gonna be like, well, it stopped them, so I don't care. I feel like Mika's getting her entire world rocked in how the system does not follow the system. And I'm like, oh girl, you don't even know. It's great. I love Saiga just telling her what it's all about. And Mika's just like, what do we do? Poor Sugo, though. I felt so bad for him. I'm glad that Ginoza and Togani help him. I'm glad that... And then, okay, yeah, Togani gets in front of Sugo to help him. And then Ginoza just punches the shit out of the drone, like, with his metal hand. I'm like, could he be more badass? I'm like, yes, please. Ginoza, sweetheart, you're doing amazing, sweetie. Keep doing what you're doing. Freaking love him. Absolutely. My dogs, of course, have decided that I'm not good to play with now, so they're just going to play with each other. But yeah, Akane, I love that you have our three bros, Togani, Sugo, and Ganozo, which I'm kind of like Togani, Sugo. I'm kind of like Sugo and Ganozo. You guys need to stay away from Togani. He's kind of a problem. He might be a little bit of a double agent. I wouldn't trust him. Not really. But Akane's sitting there running with guns in her arms, which is the most hilarious visual of her just running with guns. Hilarious. I love it. And then she manages to make it to this ship. This ship is like giving me all of the Monster vibes. There's an episode of Monster where there's like a ship with characters on it running away, and there's a female character that chases after it, you know. I like when we go to Shion. Shion's about to activate the program to dismantle the hollow. Saiga's just sitting there waiting for it to happen. Kunozuka is like backing Shion up. Hinakawa is like praying that it works and being like, please forgive me for us using this technology. And Mika's just sitting on the sidelines like, I'm not going to do anything else. She doesn't have the authority and she doesn't do it. Which is hilarious because she thought she had all the authority. And I love Shion just being like, Shion being a badass is so great. I love it. And then, yeah, everybody realizes what they did and then suddenly, you know, throw up their food and everything because they realize that the game they were playing actually killed people. Imagine that. And then, so Mika's like, well, of course, like, she's like, I told you this would happen. There's no way we can deal with all of this. And then I like, what does Saiga tell her that? She's like, well, there's no way we can deal with all of this all over again. And Saiga's like, don't whine. You're an inspector, aren't you? I love it. I love that, you know, 2 episodes ago when Ayanagi died, she was whining because she's like, well, but there's all the psychopaths riding and we don't know what to do and we haven't gotten orders from above. And I love that Saiga's just like, quit bitching and go do your job. You Gen Z, get out of here. I love it. I freaking love Saiga. He's like one of my favorites in this whole season. And then Kunozuka's like, let's go. We have a job to do. And Mika is afraid. All of this boils down to the fact that Mika is scared that her psychopath is going to rise. And she's going to be a latent criminal. That's all this amounts to. And Saiga's like, so group psychopath pollution, huh? That's what you're worried about. As if Sybil's weaknesses are being exposed one by one. So yeah, that's kind of a thing too, is that this psychopath pollution that's happening, and he's just exposing the weaknesses, right? So one by one, what Kamui is doing is just sitting there and exposing everything, every flaw in Sybil's system. The drones, the Public Safety Bureau drones, like showing the Dominators and how they function, figuring out how to get a mass group of people stressed, and like the fact that the divisions are not equipped to handle that kind of resonance and that kind of high magnitude pollution. Like, it just basically is there to point out all the flaws in the system. And once those flaws are kind of out there in the open, then it's easier for Kamui to kind of exploit them and make them worse. So yeah, that's kind of like, it's sort of showing how bad things can truly get because the system is not as perfect as it thinks it is. And the problem is Sybil thinks it's perfect. And it's like, oh no, you're not. And so I am so curious how Kasai is going to respond to this next episode if we get it. Because I'm like, how is Kasai going to react to all this exposure to the flaws in the system that it thinks it doesn't have? So who knows? But then, yeah, so they have five Dominators before them, these bloody Dominators right in front of Shisui. And she's sitting there looking at them. And then, I don't know, she looks happy to have the Dominators there, so maybe she's been brainwashed by him. I don't know. But then I love that Kane's like, I have a gun. I'm not afraid to use it. So they have 6 Dominators because he's holding one. And then she points it at him. And we don't see what his crime coefficient is. But she's like, to think the Dominator doesn't even recognize him. He's a ghost. And then she can see that he has the eye that works, so she can see that. And he notices her crime coefficient is only 28, not a target for enforcement. And he's like, so this is your color. Remarkably clear As I thought. Yeah, so her color right now is clear. And then Shisui is kind of looking up at her like, okay, you have a clear color. What do we do about that? And I like that the sunset colors, there's blue and reds behind her. I'm wondering what Shisui is planning on doing with this information. And then she's like, who are you? What are you after? All the questions we want to know the answer to as they get on this luxury yacht. And he's like, Inspector, when judgment comes, I want you to see it with your own eyes. And she's like, what the fudge judgment? What? And then they start to take off. Yeah. So here's the thing. He's like, I know you can't shoot. And I'm like, she's like, well, bitch, I can. Now, my thing is that boat took off with them on it. So that means there has to be somebody else there, right? Because the boat can't just take off by itself. So maybe either it's automated by a drone or someone else is on the ship with them. I'm not sure. But also that boat looks pretty luxury. So maybe Kamui comes from money or has acquired it through some money. I don't know. And then she's like, well, fine. And I like that Kamui kind of smiles like, you're not going to shoot me. And then she tells him to stop. And that's when Togani takes the gun like he's going to shoot. And he's like, leave the dirty work to us who are the enforcers. Now, in that moment, she sees Kogami in that moment, who's a little bit taller than Togani, just so we all are clear from that little illusion there. And when she sees him... Now, here's the part that's weird. He goes to fire, okay? He goes to fire the gun at Kamui, who now the hood slips off and his hair blows back. You see, like, the scar lines, like, his face. It's not his actual face. I'm sure it's a face that he's transplanted onto him because freaking weird, right? But Togani goes like he's going to aim the gun and fire at him, and then she sees Kogami, and she doesn't want Togani to be, to be a target for enforcement. And she's like, nope, never mind. We'll just save it for another day. Now, was that his intent to remind her of Kogami? I don't know. Because she says, no, don't fire at him. And she keeps him from doing it, and he stops. So I'm like, was there... And the damn boat is named what color? Son of a bitch. The damn boat's name is what color? That's so cheesy. No! That's cheesy as hell. Damn it. Kamui has no taste. He's a loser. He's creepy. And he's corny as all get out. Are you freaking kidding? And the boat's name as what color is in gold. Shut the frick up. How dare. How dare. That's lame. That's so lame. And she's like, great. Now they're escaping. What do we do about this? But Togani's seen him. She's seen him. What do we do? And my dogs have been so persistent throughout this entire discussion. I apologize for my dogs wanting me to play with this stupid toy. I apologize. This is just how they are. What can we do? So yeah. So basically, and Ruby's taking the toy away now so that he won't play with me anymore. Of course. So Kamui is clearly tech savvy. He's clearly has access to money, right? And he's been doing body modification, I believe. He's altered his face. He's altered his eye. We have no clue what parts of his body are real or not. Don't know. He basically is trying to clear people's psychopasses so they don't have to use the system. But I think he's going to try to also tamper with the dominators where anybody can use them. Which if he does that and is able to mass produce them, that's a problem. And then Togani, meanwhile, is trying to figure out what makes Akane's psychopath tick, why he wants to know all this information, why he wants to turn her color black. I don't know. But there's that going on. And meanwhile, Akane keeps getting reminded of Kogami when she looks at Togani, who he's not Kogami. How dare you, sir? Don't you try to be a mockery of him. So, I don't know. I would honestly, what would make my day? If Togani is revealed to be like a secret bad guy and he tries to hurt Akane at the end and then the real Kogami shows up and kicks his ass, I would love that. I would freaking love that. But I don't know if that's going to happen or not. I don't know. There's still so much mystery, and my dogs have finally decided to stop playing right when I get done with this discussion. So, of course they did. So I'm sorry if they were distracting. They kept distracting me throughout all of this. I'm sorry, but this show just gets better and better, and I'm so curious. I'm really excited to see the aftermath of this whole ordeal next episode. But we're past the halfway point, and so now it's like, well, what do we do about Kamui? How do we track him down? What's his next move? What are we going to do about this whole situation? What is Togani and Mika going to have at it? How is that going to go down? I'll wait till next week, but I'm really excited to see what's going to happen. So I hope y'all have a wonderful week. Please stay safe. Take care. Please no spoilers, but I'm excited to hear your comments down below. And I'll talk to y'all again next week with more Psycho-Pass. Bye.